So I'll break it down a bit about RSF and the army. The Hemeti guy was, Burhan used to be the leader, used to be the army commander of the Western region. Western region is where Darfur is. Hemeti, who is now leading RSF, used to be a chemo trader. Chemo traders have a lot of security. So Burhan, who is a commander, who is fighting now with Hemeti, hired Hemeti to be his intelligence officer in Darfur. You remember that time Darfur had a problem with the guys who are feeling that they were left out in Bashir's government. So they started fighting the government. So what did Hemeti, Burhan do? He went and asked Hemeti and bankrolled Hemeti with his horsebacks. And Hemeti formed something we used to call the Janjaweed. That means horsemen, a militia of horsemen on horsebacks. There were 80, the first one. These guys really swept Darfur. They killed people. They really brought that war in Darfur and killed very many people. After that, Burhan was promoted to the central command of the army. That time, Bashir, who took power in 1986, through the help of the speaker was known as Al-Turabi, decided that since he was fearing the army, he decided to bring the Janjaweed as a force, as a militia, onto his side. So there was a massive recruitment of Janjaweed, and they turned it to RSF. Hemeti, who used to be Burhan's spy, was given the commander of that unit. You understand how this thing is moving? So the guy becomes, and then Bashir realizes that the army might overthrow him. So he says RSF was to be his safe house, to protect him. So he said they'll join the army at a certain time. So the framework was made for them to join the army. In the meantime, RSF was used by the Bashir government to go into the war in Yemen. The Houthi rebels were actually fought by the Sudanese RSF, and they were paid a lot of money. Who led that fight? Hemeti. Then secondly, what you're talking about, the Western country being quiet. The operation boat, you remember a very long time, a few years ago, there was a lot of Africans trying to go to Europe through the boat from Western Sahara. RSF was used and were given a lot of money by the Western powers to stop the boat operation.
So do you think they're being used by Western powers now?
I'm coming to that. So the Western, have you had an African dying when they're trying to cross to Spain anymore? It is these RFL guys who cleaned them. There's no boats crossing to Europe anymore. They were paid for it. So this thing, it's like you are feeding a monster. So they became so big with lots of money. They decided they need to kick Bashir out, the person who was their ally. And they joined with the army, they kicked Bashir out. So the commander becomes the head of, they elected a government. The commander is who? Is a army commander, Burhan. The deputy is Hemeti, the RSF guy. Russia comes into the picture. Russia wants to set a naval base in the north at around 200 billion. The Americans say no.
And
when Lavrov came, Lavrov is a minister for Russia, went there. Blinken calls and says, no, you can't go and set a naval base in Africa. So after that, from December, things start escalating because of what?
US-Russia.
US-Russia.
And here we are.
So now, Hemeti and Burhan are in a fight. These are brothers who took over power together. One thinks that the Russian naval base should be there, and one thinks the Americans should be there. That is the problem we have in South Sudan. And the problem which has, in rule we always say, do not make a militia part of the national army. Do not make Janjaweed part of RSF and you bring them to the army. Even in Kenya, when we got independence, Kenyatta never agreed with Mau Mau joining the army. Because they'll mess. The problem we had in Zimbabwe, same thing.
Oh wow, that's thank you for giving us that context.
That's
actually that's really
you're an expert, bro.